It's one of those only animals. They're very sweet. They're very fluffy, but you don't with them. Our managers always inspire us who to be or who not to be. Uh, so
Active people from other parts of the government services. I'm sure there were people from, intelligence units there and people from diplomatic units there. How was that like learning from them? Hello and welcome back to the Masters of Real Estate. This is Nick Shah. Today, we are going to learn from Yuval Golan. Yuval, did I say your name right?
you might have.
So, Yuval, how do you introduce yourself these days?
I'm the founder and CEO of Waltz. I'm a relentless entrepreneur, self-learner, and I try to fix a problem that really exists and has infinite scale. And I enjoy learning cultures, languages, and things every day. And I enjoy teaching and helping others. I guess this is the brief intro.
Yeah, we covered quite a few. You're founder and CEO of a fintech and a prop tech company. You are a serial entrepreneur, self-described as relentless. You like to learn by yourself and fix problems, especially problems that can be scaled a lot. And, learning new cultures and languages, which is definitely something we'll go into because I had a chance to look at your background, as well as enjoy, learning and teaching others. But let's start with, how, if you had to describe all this in and this operating philosophy of your life into a spirit animal or a bird, which spirit animal or bird would you say best describes you and your operating philosophy at life?
So I have a combo. Every answer with me will be difficult, Nick. I apologize. Okay. So of course, my spirit animal is the puffin over here behind me. Puffin or nothing. That's the Waltz's animal.
Puffin or nothing.
Yeah, puffin or nothing. Because people think it's a penguin, it's a toucan, which is great. I allow them to imagine whatever it is in indoor culture, but for us, it's a puffin. Then I identify with a panda. Panda are very nice, but did you read if there's any panda predators? There aren't. It's one of those only animals. They're very sweet. They're very fluffy, but you don't with them. And I'm also maybe an eagle or a falcon. I see things from a very height and I know how to dive deeper. So if there was a hybrid of an animal that would combine these three, maybe that's me.
I love it. Seems like a part of your philosophy is puffin. A part of a philosophy is a panda who is very nice and fluffy, but don't mess with them. And a part of a philosophy is this 30,000 feet view as an eagle or a falcon. What exactly is the inspiration behind the puffin philosophy?
So I took a trip to Iceland. We'll be releasing a video. I'm not sure if you took a look at our website with all the funny animations. I believe in enabling any type of difficult subject into simple words to 6 years old. Einstein used to say, if you can't explain to a 6-year-old what you do, it means you don't know what you do by yourself. And I have a lot of people that ask me that. It's okay. Here's a video of who is Yuval and where he came from. So it'll be funny. And it's not because of you, it's because of me. I told my story so many times. So I want to make it funny and people would enjoy. So the inspiration for the puffin is travel to Iceland, saw this very cute little animal, colored and very clumsy, but then all of a sudden it starts flying. I was like, what? So like penguins are flying. So they always surprise you. They have multiple homes and they live on a cliff, they live on the edge. So I thought that's kind of a useful and very beautiful animal. Also, Nick, do you have kids?
I have one. I have a 2-year-old son and a 3-year-old dog.
So when you take them to the dentist, or when our parents took us to the dentist, they had to keep us busy. So they showed us something on the wall that we won't notice when they give us some injection. So people say, and here I don't mind being recorded, that taking a mortgage as a foreigner or in general, it's just like undergoing colonoscopy. And as a foreigner, it's without anesthesia. So, and I say, okay, look at the puffin. And then it's fun. The other thing is many financial institutions usually have a lot of predators like lions and falcons and eagles. And I was like, I want to have a cute little animal that will help me out. So this is what is the inspiration, all these funny combos of things.
Wow, what a story. And that's so helpful and so revealing. So essentially, your Puffin philosophy is truly a hybrid of your panda and your eagle philosophy, which is a puffin that's, lives on a cliff edge. So has a true bird's eye view or a 30,000 feet view of what's happening, but also is very, loving and, easy to work with from that sense and not a very predatory animal. So, wow. Yeah. It's the first I've heard and, learned something new. So thanks for sharing, Yuval. Now, if we look at your life journey from a different lens, you've had an incredible story and I want to get into that. But before, I want to understand how you like to recap it yourself. So what key metric do you feel summarizes your life story so far?
I think I was very fortunate that my parents gave me a lot of independence, or they were exhausted from me at a young age. So I had the opportunity to venture out at very young age to do different things. And that has been kind of my journey. And I'm not afraid to try new things or speak to new people. Even if I don't speak the language, I'll get along and you can drop me anywhere and probably I'll survive. Probably. Haven't tried in any place. So I think that's kind of the thing. So maybe determination or resilience. But I don't only learn myself, I learn from many other people. So everyone is my teacher. So the important thing is to be humble and to learn from everyone and know that every person can teach you at least one thing he does better than you are. We're no better than no one. I see it.
Fascinating. So it's almost like the key metric that can summarize your life is the amount of cultures and regions you have learned in, that enables you to look at everyone as almost an equal and almost an opportunity for you to learn and absorb something from them, regardless of the barriers between you and them. So seems like you've, lived almost everywhere in the world. It seems like some of your early career and, life was in Israel and then in Europe. And then, so it seems like you spent some time in China and Scandinavia and now in the United States. When you look back at your own life journey, what do you feel has been your broad trajectory so far?
Trajectory in which way? Can you kind of detail this?
So how about we start with what inflection points do you feel happened in your life that led you to today?
Okay. So again, parents. The second thing is different bosses. Our managers always inspire us who to be or who not to be. So friends that you grow with and grow with you, professors, people, random people you met and had a fun conversation with that taught you a thing or two. And I guess near life and death experiences teaches you as well, either yourself or a close relative or someone that is related to you. Moving to new countries, not understanding culture, and then doing culture misappropriations. That teaches you some lessons too. So all these things kind of led me to be who I am.
Wow. Yeah. So let's start with, your managers, your professors, and some of the friends. What do you feel did you absorb? What advice did you absorb from the mentor and the parental type figures in your life?
So there were a lot of advices about being curious and learning. And even when we're in school and we're not really listening, some things sit in your subconscious. And then 5 years later, oh, I learned that thing. That is useful. So a lot of these things that relate to some basics, economics, or how to read situations in a good way. I had an amazing professor when I studied in the US that taught us about negotiation. And I thought I was a great negotiator until she showed me some simple steps on how to organize things in a way that makes sense, in a plain way, like in a matrix that is important for you, what's important for your counterparty, and how you give up things that are important to them, but not really important to you, but they look like they're important to you. A lot of things. So sometimes it's just simple advices. You just have to listen and
Fascinating. So it seems like curiosity, learning, and have been your core learnings from the process. But some main learnings you still use today seem to be the negotiation class taught by this professor. So, for somebody who has never taken a negotiation class or wants to understand what you learned in that class, how would you summarize your learnings?
So basically, build an Excel, take the negotiation, break it into small pieces. What's important to you? Put a point system. What's important to the other party? Put a point system. What are the things you're willing to give in that you really care about and are your red lines? What are the things you're willing to give in that the other party is their red lines and he will take important? Then you build a few scenarios and then you come up with the most optimal outsource and get a negotiation done.
Yeah, that's a very good summary. And like you said, explain like I'm a 6-year-old, and if you can explain it that easily, then people definitely understand it. Now, let's start to take a look at your life journey. Seems like very early in your career, you were in the Israeli, armed forces, which seems like, was that a part of your mandatory?
Yeah.
But very quickly, you went from that to being, what do you call it, a attaché at an embassy in, how was that like?
Amazing. You're a 20-something-year-old that goes to work for an embassy and represent your country, enjoy good life, work very hard, live abroad, and finally your taxes pay for themselves.
That's true. Working in the government is one way of getting your tax dollars back. But how was it like, working in the embassy as a 20-something-year-old, also surrounded by, so many other really smart, effective people from other parts of the government services? I'm sure there were people from, intelligence units there and people from diplomatic units there. How was that like learning from them?
It was great. You get inspired by different. And actually, one of the funnest story I had in there, I can give you we had a military film fest, and Israel and Indonesia and Malaysia don't have diplomatic relation. And the military attaché of Malaysia came to me and he said, Yuval, that was a great film presented by the IDF. And I actually voted for it. I asked them, are you allowed to speak to me? And he's like, Yuval, we're human. When some other human does something great, politics doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, that's pretty right. And this is how I take life. So each of these people teaches me kind of a lesson.
We are human indeed. I absolutely love that. Now, how did you go from working essentially as a part of government services to going into the airline industry in Scandinavia?
So, my brother got married in China in 2009. I went to attend his wedding. I saw the growth of 3 nations during the financial crisis. Only 3 countries were growing: India, China, and Israel. The other countries were not doing well. And I said, okay, great. I'll go and study Chinese after I, was at my brother's wedding. On the way back, there was an open application for people that are not from the aviation industry that want to change the aviation world. Now, if you look at the ranking of the worst service providers to rank, I would come as government service, banks, then after that, aviation, and then after that, you have others. And the idea to change the aviation world was great, is let's build a customer. Let's build something that touches the entire touch points and all these things. That's how I came. And then they published an application. More than 2,000 people applied because everyone, of course, wants to travel the world on the expense of an airline and get a salary and review and get all those feedback. And I was one of the fortunate ones. And I also won in a very creative way that they weren't expecting. So it was like, okay, we have to hire this guy. And then I did it for 2.5 months. We had 11.5 million active followers. Now, this is 2011. There's no TikTok. There's no, Instagram followers. We had Flickr and Facebook. Hopefully some of the listeners here even remember what it is. And Twitter just started. So that's what the tools we have.
Fascinating. Yeah. I remember early 2000s when, I was in college, and Twitter and WhatsApp actually came to campus to recruit. And the WhatsApp only had something like 20 people in the whole company back then. So I clearly remember those times. So seems like your experiences of, you seem to have a deep sense of empathy for users from your world travels, and that really enables you to create a much better experience for user journeys in platforms when they interface with. Was that basically your secret sauce on why you were so successful in that role?
I learn from everyone and they teach me. So I try to, listen. At the end, people tell you what they want. Just most people don't listen.
Mm. Mm. And very quickly after that, it seems like given your, study of Mandarin and your brother's exposure in China, you seem to have started a company of some sort in the Hainan province in China. So for listeners who don't know anything about China or even Hainan province, like first of all, what's the context here and what were you doing there?
As you know, China is a continent. So when you say you have a Chinese partner, it means like you have a partner for the entire European region or Americas, or Latam. So I basically, when I visited there, I broke down China into pieces and looked at provinces that I saw that will have potential. China on the central government's plan was going to become an international tourism island. However, when you imagine an island, you think about it somewhere, Mykonos, some little island in Thailand or things like that. China is Hainan is the size of Belgium. It has 10 million population, well, 100 million tourists a year. And the idea was to boost international tourism while building also a free trade zone and adding a lot of infrastructure, because let's face it, China is one of the most capable governments in the world in building the railways, communications, and bridges, and all these things. So I saw the potential. In addition, I saw the potential because there's hardly any foreigners and there were hardly any locals that spoke English. Many of the locals actually speak with a local accent or the local dialect, which is Hainanese. So I said, okay, great potential. Let's start a company over there. And I was able to leverage my experience in order to build a win-win solution to my partners that was working there, which were industries and, local state-owned companies, in order to bridges between China and the West. I did that for about 9 years in the culture sector, agriculture, tech implementation, M&As, fundraising, and a few other items. Initially, we worked with foreign companies. We want to successfully enter the Chinese market, which is one of the most challenging ones. Then China was at the golden age of cross-border M&As. So I was assisting Fortune 500 companies with that. And then some government tenders, aviation. And then I decided to take an EMBA in one of their nice universities called Peking University by Western. And that kind of concluded a decade. Got old.
And isn't Peking University ranked like in the top universities in China?
The Harvard of China. So yeah, Peking University and Tsinghua. So Peking is like Harvard, Tsinghua is like Stanford, and they always laugh at each other, like who's better or whatever. But it's a really great school. I learned a lot there.
So what were sort of the highs and lows of, operating across so many industries and working across so many functions during your time in the Hainan province?
So I think one of the greatest and worst things that can happen to an entrepreneur is unexpected or unexpectancy or no forecast or things like that. So one of the greatest things and challenges and also outcomes would be when you work in a developing country is there's a lot of unexpected things you can't control, which is an entrepreneur will drive you nuts. However, one of the greatest things, because you work in a developing country, you have resources that other countries don't have, like media. When they want to publish you, you control the narrative, which you don't get it. So when you're the right side of the people, when you create value and they're interested in what you do, you get amplification of everything. So challenges, unexpected, a lot of question marks. You never know if things will close. Never thought payments will be received, but that's the life of an entrepreneur. We're crazy.
Wow. And, what has been the core fuel driving this fire?
I don't know. I like challenges. I don't like things simple. I get bored. I took a year off in Brazil and I called my best friend and I told them, it's a perfect place. There's no COVID. I have a beautiful girlfriend. I live in a beautiful house. It's so boring. I can't handle it. He's okay. Start a startup again. I said, yes, the suffering starts again. Then and went back to the suffering.
So seems like you're able to handle very high levels of uncertainty very well. it seems like you've never been at a phase where you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
I had a phase like that. I try to think about in operational way, you're pretty correct, but when you're surrounded with smart people and teachers and friends and you not feel shy to share problems, most people are very shy or, scared or think that they'll be, humiliated. It's just share whatever. You're not that special. Everything you suffered, at least 100,000 other people suffered from before. But when you deal with health issues or family health issues, these are things you feel like you're not in control. And this is where you have to take some wall, get a punching bag and say, I can't control this. I'll do whatever I can in order to help. So things like that, all of us are guilty of not being in control and feeling very frustrated.
Yeah, I completely empathize. In the end, it just comes to controlling the controllables and, everything else is suffering. Yeah. So how did this whole life trajectory end up with you starting and successfully scaling a prop tech and fintech company?
So just like any other entrepreneur, excuse my French, it's like I work all around the world. What the F I'm going to do with all this unrelated experience in multiple industries? So I took some time off to think and then it came to me. I was based in Brazil. I loved where I lived and I said, okay, let's buy this property. I went to a few banks. They wouldn't even open a bank account for me because I wasn't a tax. I said, what? And then I tried to bring in money in and they charged like to 10% on foreign exchange. I was like, what? This is crazy. I went back to Israel and I said, okay, it's a good time during COVID to buy homes. They wouldn't recognize my Hong Kong employment or, certificates. I tried to buy in Argentina. The interest rate for loans is about 95%.
What? Yeah, because of the hyperinflation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then in Thailand, there were no loans for foreigners. And then we looked at New York. I organized a few group of friends and there was a bank I was banking with for over a decade. And then my visa expired and they wouldn't recognize my prior visas. But as you know, all the consulates were closed. So I was like, it's a good deal. I like good deals. I found the only consulate in the world that was open in Bangkok. I flew in, quarantined for 2 weeks, and then I got my mortgage approved, which was ridiculous. And then I said, okay, this is a world problem. Let's sit and solve this, speak to hundreds of people and come up with a model. And not only solve the lending and the banking, is just solve the checkout experience. Just like when you both grew up and me as well, if you want to buy a book, we call each other on the landline. We're not at home. We go back, we take a bus, we go to the bookstore. Book is out of stock. After a month, we get a book, and then there's Amazon and other companies. But real estate, the largest transaction in the world, there's no transparency. It takes ages. You pay fees, but you don't know what's going on. So the idea was to solve for that in being transparency and scale.
Wow. So seems like you built this from a own problem you were facing in trying to buy real estate as somebody who lived in lots of different parts of the world. And, it's a very real problem as countries grow and build architectures. Like, for example, when, I went to China, it's really impossible to transact without having WeChat. Or when you go to India, it's really very difficult to transact if you don't have the UPI apps. And similar in US, if you don't have a social security number and a credit profile built out, it's very hard to transact. And it seems like you faced the problem yourself and decided to solve it. For a potential, foreign investor listening to this, how would you describe is their ideal experience of working with Waltz, your company?
So when buying a property today, there's a lot of middlemen and people that are very willing to help you because this is part of their role. And it's very done manually, WhatsApp, phone calls, emails, and you become Excel's like a project manager of a process you don't really understand. Instead of that, they will get an invite to our platform. We will then perform identity verification remotely. And we check in a lot of databases if they're on any country restricted list or Interpol list or stuff like that. Hopefully they're not. And then after that, they will be qualified for the Waltz Investor Pack, which is a US-based LLC, a US-based EIN, which is like a tax identification. We open with API also a US bank account with our partner bank. We open a local collections account so they can even wire their currency in their local currency because many realtors in the US calculate what's their dollar to dollar amount or investment. But many investors are like, I need to see if this makes sense to me if to convert makes sense because that's part of my cost. So the idea was to solve for that. We then can collect the money in their home countries, in multiple home countries, and we're integrating more and more, get it to the US to their account under their LLC. We are then also a mortgage lender for business purpose loans, investment properties. You can lend them up to 70 or 75%. Can help with insurance. They see a tracker. And the whole idea, they don't need to leave the comfort of their home unless they choose to close the deal.
Wow. And how long does this process take if they are in a rush?
So again, we always depend on humans. So we're always depending on appraisals and a bit of lawyers and physical things that has to be done. But let's say all the stars aligned. We always say that we are doing this under 30 days, but as quickly as 14. But I can share for the record, once we tried our capabilities and we even did it in 5 days.
Wow. So if there is a superhuman need, you can do it way quicker. But I mean, anyways, after putting an offer on a property, it takes 21 to 30 days to close it anyways. So even a month.
For a foreigner, it takes a very long time because they need their account verified, money moved to the US. If they want a loan, it takes ages. The seller doesn't understand if they have a credit score. Even for Americans, US-based, SSN-based, the average closing time is 45 to 50 days. So under 30 is crazy, especially if it's before national.
Completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of, is that your primary differentiation? Like, what do you feel differentiates Waltz from 99% of the rest of the market? Is it the speed? Is this the only capability out there? Like, are there any other services that people can use?
Thanks to COVID, there's a lot of companies that forward because governments had to adapt new technologies, but the services are very fragmented. So there's one company that does banking. There's one company that does LLCs. There's one company that does accounting. There's one company that does closing. But me as a user, I want to deal with Amazon. I don't care if it's a drone or last mile solution or who brings it. Take my card. Where's my book? Real estate is the same. You have worked hard your entire life. You want to do different things. You don't want to manage these transactions. Like, where's my money? Do the accounting for me. Do everything for us and make sure it's done remotely. And you want your Alfred from Batman to do it for you. For that partner. Well, Waltz is a name. It's the dancer with a partner. We're the partner. And the differentiators are customer service, dumbing down things and looking in a humble way, doing things in a very quick, customer-centric, and solution-oriented. Many financial institutions look at you like prove to me that what you say is right. And we're like, you're an investor. I think like an investor. Let me try to enable you to get to the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. So, what does the typical, down payment and loan term look like for a typical foreign home buyer compared to a local home buyer?
So in general, the foreigners actually buy more expensive homes when they buy in the US. Statistics, the median purchase price is about $400K. Many of them will be, single family homes for investment purposes or condos. And then they look for investments. Some of them look for condos in, places like Miami, which is about 25% of all foreign investment in the US. That's why I'm based there. Then the transaction will be looking like they're looking for either a second home or an investment home for when they come to the US or for their children when they go to college so they can rent it out other kids and make money for the mortgage. And then they will set up their LLC. They will get their loan. The down payment on, let's say, on a $400,000 home will be about 30 to 35%, depending on the cash flow of the property. And the rest will be given as a loan.
So makes sense. So it will be a 65 to 70% loan to value, 30 to 35% down, which again, a lot of for a lot of domestic home property buyers, that sounds high, but for a lot of foreign buyers, some of them are used to putting 50-60% down. Some of them are even used to buying properties with 100% down in countries where you can't even get a cost effective loan. The 30-year US mortgage is one of the rarest financial instruments in the world. So it's not really as accessible in other countries. So 30-35% down, that's not unreasonable. And then what are the typical loan terms? So these days, a 30-year mortgage, when we are recording this in October 2024, is about 6.5%. what would the typical loan term, arrange they would get as a foreign buyer?
So again, depending on loan size, loan terms, this varies, but the rates now are very competitive in the higher sixes, lower sevens, not so far US-based investors. And again, when you see the Fed rates, these are usually if you're an 800 credit score borrower that takes 60 put below, et cetera, et cetera. So when you increase LTV and reduce your credit, which foreigners don't have, the rates adjust.
Makes sense. But you're saying the rates are competitive, which sounds, quite compelling. It sounds actually really, really good. Are there any risks of working with Waltz?
We try to mitigate the risks. When you work with investments, so I'll say on the other side, on the flip side, always know there are risks. Housing can go down, a renter can stop paying, a property manager maybe is not the best guy you thought he is. We're humans and we depend on humans. Sometimes we do things that are not best for others. And then for working with Waltz, we build all the compliance and legal and regulated entities we work with trust us to do what we do. If not, we won't be able to open those accounts on behalf of banks or the Visa foreign currency exchange accounts. So for you as a client, you should feel safe and sound to work with us, and try working with 15 other parties and then see how much time you waste and come back to us and ask for help. It already happened quite a time.
It seems like you've built a customer journey that really focuses on efficiency and optimization and even speed if speed is required. What would you say is the culture for working at Waltz for someone listening to this that might want to join you in the company?
So that's a great question. I try to implement all the things that I've learned from former companies, projects, bosses, partners. We have a team that spans over a few geographies, more than 10 nationalities, more than 10 languages. Some of them work from an office, some of them work remotely. My culture always says face-to-face is great. So we fly them in, so we hang out, meet their colleagues, and prosper together. We're an international company, global heart, help global people, speak global languages, humble, help our employees grow internally. And this is that.
Yeah, sounds like quite a team. And is your what spectrum does your team fall on, from the whole work in office 100% of the time to work remotely 100% of the time?
So Amazon, what was published. I'm old school. I used to work in an office, and I think working remotely is something for very mature and professional people. And it's something that it's a capability you need to acquire. Some generations never knew what it is to work in office, which is also very sad. Same about schools. All of us went to school. At the end, we learned a thing or two, but it's more about the social skills, and to get beaten up by someone and buy a sandwich or meet a bully. It's all important as part of human interactions. So in our office, we have different offices and different policies that relate to different geographies. Large countries like the US, we don't have everyone in the office. We have a large team around the US, but we have a digital platform that allows them to work remotely and see each other and knock on doors. It's a pretty cool platform called Rome. It's an amazing founder that built this. So have you heard about it?
Yeah, we are on Rome as well. We absolutely love it. And Howard Lerman is I've sent more than a few messages to Howard every once in a while. So Howard is a shout out to you right now. Yeah.
Howard is what?
I've sent that more is to Howard. Yeah.
We love you. We love Rome. So we use Rome. Howard is in Miami. We fell in love because I told him what I need when I moved from the east to the west. It was like in India, in China, in other countries, you have one app that controls everything. And all of a sudden I moved to the west and I have 50 different apps. I was like, I can't deal with this. And I told him I hate Slack. And he's like, Yuval, this is my new platform. So I was like, yes, I implemented it and I love Rome.
Yeah, similarly. And by the way, we don't condone any sort of violence at school. Obviously the bullying comment was just as an example or metaphor, not obvious.
So of course, it's a metaphor. We don't support bullying. We don't think it's good. I'm just saying, you have best friends, you hug them, you skip a class, even though we don't engage you to skip a class, hang out with your friends, you go to social skills, and there's unfortunate things that happen that are out of your control because that's his society.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Yuval, what is the story behind naming your company Waltz in the first place?
So we thought about our old name used to be Finny, which is a very young age for a young company that thought about an easy name to start off and kick off. And then we deeply thought about what is the client journey. And we realized that it has a few things. One is our clients are people that want to build their financial freedom. So-called aristocrat or future aristocrats. And they want a partner they can trust. So a few things happen there is one, waltz is an aristocratic dance from a few centuries ago. We dance in partner and you dance in circles, and we don't want you to dance in circles. So we're like the Robin to Batman, Alfred to Batman. You lead the way. You're the superhero. We're just there to support you. And it's a good name. It's different.
I love it. Yeah, it's a very good name. And, your Puffin perspective really goes very strongly with that as well. It seems like you've raised quite a few rounds of venture capital as well. And, that seems to indicate a lot of conviction in your ability to deliver or, try to deliver against a massive vision. So what is your ultimate vision for the future of the, home buying industry?
So I look at the real estate market as a very resilient market. And I said it also when the market was down. I said, market is down, wealthy people buy. Market is up, everyone buys. Homes, there isn't enough inventory. Population grows, more investors come to the market. So it is what it is. My goal is to have Waltz as the brand and the official brand for checkout of foreigners or maybe more in the future. And people will come to us and say, it's either Puffin or nothing, either Waltz or nothing, Yeah. That's the goal in optimizing and making more efficient with closing.
And to reach this aspirational vision and, especially your aspirational vision over the next 12 months, what are the biggest challenges that you're facing in scaling your team or operations?
So the way to do it is always test and do not overkill things that you do. So always test, move from 3 to 5, increase the team, see the service level is the same, see your ops and tech and all supported ideas, and keep your investors not worried and say, hey guys, everything's good, support the plan. We'll give right projections. So the idea is always balanced approach on everything while testing new things and being humble to make mistakes. Okay, this is how it's.
Yeah, it's a fascinating perspective, one I completely agree with. So I'd love to ask you some rapid fire questions, Yuval.
Sure, go ahead.
What would you say about the real estate industry or the home buying industry that might surprise most listeners?
That even though it seems like there's data, the greatest thing about real estate, there isn't data. And all the anomalies are the interesting part is how you find opportunities. And you just have to do your homework. Fact number one. Fact number two, just like stocks that were not approachable or easy to understand a few years ago, up until a few years ago, real estate is pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, we grew up and we played Monopoly when it's all cash buy. Financing is great. It's the way to make wealth. I think many of our parents and uncles and taught us 3 sentences that they didn't tell you the other side is one, don't take loans, but they missed unless you can pay them back. Do not invest in the stock market is dangerous unless you understand. And curiosity killed the cat. Persistence brought him back to life. So all these things, what you need to know in order to get things done, just study, dive into details, speak to experts, and you can get it done.
Wow. Yeah. Don't take loans, but, take a loan if you can pay it back. Invest in stock if you truly understand it. And yes, curiosity killed the cat, but persistence brought it back. Wow. Very eloquent, Yuval. Say a family office calls you, international family office, they've had a liquidity event and they've invested in a bunch of asset classes and now they have $100 million left to invest in real estate. What would you advise them if they called you?
I would tell them focus on a few areas that have high growth, good population, good median income, good assigned schools, and a few other factors that are correlated to the U.S. growth of real estate and economy, the local economy, and expand your portfolio and then optimize with economies of scales, both financing, property management, and regional managers over there. Could he help them create more efficiencies and standardization and improve rent standards? Because there's no better thing than a tenant that doesn't leave. And this is my strategy as well. Always get a free 4 bedrooms. When a young couple comes in, they both have 2 home offices, Then they have one kid, they stay. They have a second kid, they stay. They have a third kid, they stay. Be good. Don't be greedy. Be good.
The 4-bedroom strategy sounds brilliant. Yeah, that seems like a very long-term rental strategy. Yeah, I haven't heard it put that way before. Uh, so since you describe yourself as a polyglot and you've traveled so many parts of the world, what organization or institution in the US would you fix if you had the time to fix it?
We're fixing it right now. I'm helping people like me and like you guys who are niche to fix a real problem. And I said it a few times recently. Foreigners investing in America is great. No one should be afraid of it. You know why? Because when foreigners stop investing in America, US dollar is not a dominant currency. We believe in America. We want to send our kids to study in America. We want to invest in real estate in America. We invest in the stock market in America. And we're fixing a real problem.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Last question, you are. If your loved ones agree to be mentored by you, what's the number one skill you would teach?
Fall down. Don't be afraid. Stand up. Fall down again. Stand up. Ask questions. And don't be a schmuck. Don't be arrogant.
Don't be a schmuck. Don't be arrogant. Don't worry about falling down. Just stand up and try again. That was Yuval Golan. He believes in Puffin or nothing. Sees the world from a 30,000 feet view. Is very cute and adorable, but you don't want to mess with him. If you're a foreign investor looking to buy real estate in the US, yeah, you can try a few services, but Yuval says his services might be the best you might find. Check them out on getwaltz.com. If you want to invest in Yuval's company, I'll add his link in bio. This is Nick Sham. If you ever want to talk about real estate, shoot me a note on CEO@home.lnc. Thank you.